So we're coming up now on basically the 1 year anniversary of the Eagles' Super Bowl win, which I still never get tired of saying. And I think if there's anyone that game mattered more to than, say, me or E-Rock or EDP or anyone else that we know of that are Eagles fans, it definitely has to be you due to your connection with Nick Foles. Because, for me, that'd be the equivalent of, if Blake Bortles was the one that won us the Super Bowl. That would basically be where I would be in that situation. So let's rewind just a little bit. So you were basically in college at Arizona through his entire playing career, correct?
Correct.
So at what point, because I did a little bit of research, and I know he had a good run. Statistically, he played great almost his entire career. But, the team never consistently stayed great. So I'm wondering, at what point did you realize that you guys had a NFL caliber quarterback at your school at the time?
Honestly, I don't think I ever thought that, which is really crazy because, that 2012 season was a year. It was a special year. You look at the last 3 years where we've had some really big quarterback drafts, but that was a really special year because Archie was a Heisman winner. Andrew Luck was every man's winner. Everyone wanted him at some point. That's the year where it was Ryan Tannehill was pretty good. Brandon Weeden was a spectacular, candidate. No, he never panned out, and that was likely because of his age.
Right, definitely.
Didn't pan out in the NFL. Russell Wilson was in that draft, and Kirk Cousins was also in that draft. And the thing is that I always liked Nick Foles. He was never a guy who, I always trusted Nick Foles, the thing. But it's really weird because, Arizona was just a strange school at the time where, they were ranked at some point at some time, but I never looked at it and thought, Nick Foles could be an NFL quarterback. Maybe it's just because of my bias at the time. I never thought that in a million years that we would draft him. I mean, we had McNabb, we had Vic, and I was like, man, we can play a few more years with these guys, and then maybe draft someone in the first round when we lose these guys.
Right.
But never thought in a million years at that time that Nick Foles would be drafted. I didn't even think about Nick Foles getting drafted, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I didn't.
So then when that happens, obviously you don't think he's going to upseat these guys, immediately. And then, we go through the years where, the 7-touchdown game was essentially the peak of his first stint. And then, he goes to L.A., or not, it was not even L.A. yet, it's St. Louis. I'm still getting used to that. Yeah. But, he's got the anchor around his ankle that is Jeff Fisher at the time. And, obviously when he moves on from Philly, he's still your guy, so you follow him. You'd have to think at this point, well, his career is probably about to be over, but at least I got to see him play for my team a little bit beforehand.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
And then, he goes to Kansas City, which, I don't know, I imagine, this is a dumb question, I imagine you have his book, right?
I do not yet.
Really?
No,
okay.
Not
yeah.
yet. I do have his Vapor Untouchable customizable jersey, which was around $40 extra to make and took 2 extra weeks to come to me, but no, I don't have his book.
That was the night of the Super Bowl. I stumbled home, and one thing that I love is my roommate and good friend does a podcast centered around the Jaguars, and they were just doing a Super Bowl post game thing. And I come home and I stumble into his room, and we have this great 40-minute conversation with me minutes after winning the Super Bowl. So I do have that. But then after that, I run in my room, and I bought just about every Super Bowl memorabilia thing I have. And I went ahead and got a custom jersey with my name and number. That way, no matter what happens, you'll have a jersey that you can wear. But you have the same situation because Nick Foles jerseys will obviously always be welcome now. But
oh yeah, always.
But you just look at the way he goes to Kansas City. Of course, that's where Andy Reid is. If Disney was writing this script, I don't think it could have been. If this was just in a Disney movie, people come on, this would never happen. He doesn't end up on his other team. It's hard to really think back to how he managed to do what he did for this team, and we're still in a situation where we don't know what the future holds for Nick Foles. There's a very good chance he's going to be out of Philly, but to me, he has just as much of a chance of not being in Philly as he is staying here as he has retiring. So, like, what do you logically think? What's most likely his choice moving forward? What do you think will happen with Nick Foles?
I want him to go to the team he wants to go to, even if it's an NFC East opponent. I want him to go to wherever he wants to go. The great thing about this time is the fact that we have closure this time. Okay, when we traded him to St. Louis, we didn't even get to see him finish the season because he broke his clavicle.
Right.
We didn't even get to see that. And to me, there was just a lot of hatred towards Chip Kelly for that, because to me, he never wanted him to begin with. Like, when the moment he had him, he wanted to move on from him completely. And Nick Foles ended up being the best quarterback that Chip Kelly ever had. All the quick dudes and the bullet passes. He was the best quarterback he ever had.
Which was so
he
odd.
Has a Super Bowl now.
Because I remember Chip Kelly getting there and, like, he had to play Nick Foles, obviously, being in Oregon, and he talked him up so much. I'm lucky I have this guy. I've played against him. I know he's a warrior. And then he gets there, and, it's like he doesn't know what he has. I mean, you can...
And it's just one of those things where, I had just felt that was just a raw dude. Not a raw dude. Excuse me. A raw deal as a fan. And, I mean, from that moment forward, I had turned... That was the straw that broke the camel's back from a fan's perspective against Chip Kelly. There was no way that I was ever going to trust again because, like Giants fans, that guy was my horse. I felt like at the time, we made a bad trade with St. Louis for Sam Bradford.
Yep.
We went 7-9 that year. Nick Foles could have gone 7-9 and paid him like $10 million less. I don't know who we would have traded him for, but it's just one of those. It's a Cinderella story, is what it is. I think very few people actually thought that was going to happen. The moment Carson went down, and I don't blame any Eagles fan who was like feeling down about that.
Sure,
but
yeah.
I remember I was like, "It's Gucci. We got Nick Foles. Like,
right.
Don't worry about it." And even when we didn't play well, I was still like, "We have Nick Foles. We have Nick Foles." There's absolutely. He's going to play competitively in the playoffs like he always does. All of his playoff games are extremely close.